Well, thanks for sticking it out with us. This is the last session here today. I'm thrilled to moderate this discussion. We're breaking this out in two parts, and we're also talking about sports, which is my favorite thing to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the campaigns that these companies have engaged with as topic one, and then second, talk about some of the partnerships that they've made in the sports world. So very excited for this. To start, you all have impressive marketing and strategic backgrounds. Just to get to know you a little bit more, in 1 minute, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and your current role? And if you want to throw in an optional New Year's resolution or something you're binge watching, just to get to know you a little bit better, no pressure. Feel free to add that. So we can just go down the line, and then we'll probably bounce around a little bit.
All right, hi. I'm standing between everybody in lunch, so I'm Nandini. I've been at Suburban Propane over 8 years. Let's be honest. I know you guys think of propane, you think sexy. I know. I get it. We're essential commodity. Anybody on the East Coast, you're probably using propane right now. It's freezing at home or anywhere in the Midwest. We are the longest standing, oldest propane retailer in the country, 98 years old. And we also do renewable propane and renewable energies and renewable natural gas. So again, incredibly sexy terms. I don't think any of these people can come close to matching that. We are the official propane of NASCAR, hence I'm here today. What am I binge watching? I don't think anybody here might be binge watching this. A lot of international content, K-dramas and Turkish dramas.
Hi, I'm Angela Clark, VP of Digital at Patagonia. I've been there about 4 years, and I run all the e-commerce and demand gen for that company. Binge watch wise, I'd have to say just YouTube in general. I'm kind of an addict, so I'll continue to do that. Nothing consistent, part learning, part entertainment, and Mindscape, yeah.
I'm Bridget Sponsky. After spending several years on the advertising side of the business, I came over to Ally to help be a part of the core team that rebranded the company from GMAC to Ally 17 years ago. So it's been quite a journey and an amazing transformation in building a different kind of a bank when the world didn't need another one. And then also just the cultural transformation of the company. And today, I lead a team that's responsible for the brand, the creative, the advertising, and all of our sponsorships and events.
Milo Speranzo, 1 year old in Lenovo years, but very, very excited to be here. This has been the highlight of my professional journey so far. I have some of the team in the audience, so they're my favorite until somebody else walks in. But very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm the North America Chief Marketing Officer. Hopefully you had a chance to see Gwen Stefani, and then before that, catch some of the Lenovo presentation at the Sphere on Tuesday. That was a big deal for us, and we talked a lot about FIFA and some of our other sports sponsorships that we can get into a bit more on this panel. Cool. Oh, and I'm binge watching, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Pluribus? It's the first 5 episodes are horrible. They're so boring. Last 3, excellent.
All right,
so
good plug for that.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, and welcome to your first brand Innovators.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Okay, so let's get into the content here. So it's no secret that sports holds a powerful place in our culture, capturing hearts and minds and sparking conversations far beyond what happens on the field and the court. And so let's dive in and talk a little bit about some of your current campaigns. I'd like to start with Bridget. So Ally has been a leader driving industry change by elevating women's sports. We know you've been very instrumental in that. So how does Ally go to market through women's sports? And can you just talk a little bit about some of the current initiatives that have been underway?
Yeah, so our women's sports strategy is actually no different than the way we go to market, and that's just disruptive at its core. But that line of thinking is what really set us up to be able to create an architect. We're an architect of this women's sports movement, and really create this movement and this upward trajectory for women's sports. It's funny because our first sponsorship was a foray into NASCAR through Hendrick Motorsports and our number 48. And when we wrote that sponsorship, it was all centered around this idea of how can we be the brand that disrupts what it means to be a sponsor in the sport of racing. And so we've really just applied that thinking in women's sports. And so when we signed on with the NWSL, we also became the first brand to ever partner with the NWSLPA. And we did that for a really specific reason, and it was because we wanted to understand directly from the players, what are the barriers that are holding back women's sports? What do you need to be able to play and continue to play in a sustainable league that is safe and something that's going to have that longevity for you? We through that, we learned what the biggest barrier was, and that was media coverage. And so that insight is what drove us to be the first brand then to create a commitment to equal sports in men's and women's sport, and equal spend in men's and women's sports. So that was a big brand act that we kind of started with. And since then, that set the groundwork for us to be able to really change, make very substantive change in the landscape. We worked with CBS and the NWSL to move the first ever professional women's championship game to broadcast primetime. That's never happened before, and that was 2022, which is crazy. The other thing we did was work with Disney. They had worked with us to be able to figure out how we could, through a partnership with the ACC, direct 90% of our media dollars right into women's sports. That's been part of the problem is we didn't realize until we really took a look at ourselves how we didn't have control over where our media dollars were going 5 years ago. And that type of commitment and partnership from legacy media partners that allowed us to kind of do that really helped open the floodgates for everybody else to join in. So, since then we became the first founding partner of Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 off-season professional basketball teams. It's been quite a ride, but doing quite a bit, brand acts to change the landscape.
Awesome. Love that. So I'm coming here next. So Suburban Propane, and it's just a good segue off the NASCAR mention. You've also taken a mission-focused approach, particularly through sustainability around what you're doing with NASCAR and your partnership. A lot of people probably don't know you're almost a 100-year-old brand. So can you talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing with NASCAR around this specific campaign?
Sure. So, apologies. I'm allergic to smoke, and welcome to Vegas. So, and I'm not contagious. Sorry. NASCAR is interesting because they approached us and they wanted to know about sustainability. So, number one question was, how can we have anybody here been to a NASCAR race? All right. What happens when it rains? You hate it, right? It's loud, and the race doesn't go. The basis of our premise of our partnership was basically a track dryer, a propane-powered track dryer. So what do? To your question, Drew, sustainability was like the heart of all of this. The other question, you brought up brand enhancement, knowing your audience. Suburban Propane, we're in Suburbia. How many people here have heard of Suburban Propane? Sydney there, of course. She lives in Connecticut.
There was a couple other hands.
I'm not gonna lie. I had no idea who they were. 8 years ago, I'm a city dweller. I'm like, Suburban Propane, what do? Yeah. You know what? We're in suburbia. We keep you warm. We power your farms. Our customers are NASCAR fans. It was synergies, and bringing these two brands together got so critical. And finally, and the third most important thing for me was, how do you make this profitable? Because, I have to go tell my CEO, hey, let's go partner with NASCAR. You're all smiling. What's in it for me? What's in it for NASCAR? We do three main things as the official propane of NASCAR. One, the track dryer. Daytona's coming up. If anybody's there, give me a shout out. I'll be there. Two, why don't you go ahead, who here has had, a hot dog, nachos, whatever might have you, at the concessionaires? Propane. Most mobile kitchens, powered in propane, Suburban Propane. Who here's been camping at any kind of sporting event? Propane. Showers, generators. That's what we do. Kind of became the perfect amalgam. And in December, I know Sydney's in the audience somewhere, some other people are. If you attended our session, I had NASCAR with me and a female NASCAR driver. That was awesome. I mean, I think there are like 3 women now in NASCAR. So hopefully, I was a former college athlete. Drew and I were just talking about it. How do we kind of change that paradigm? So we're just trying to bring this age-old, 100-year-old essential industry to the forefront and build those synergies together. And that's where NASCAR came in.
What's your favorite race that you've been to?
Sonoma. I like wine. I guess that also has something to do with it. No, it was a beautiful track. Listen, every race is gorgeous. I am brand new to NASCAR. I'm a 9-race veteran, 9-track veteran. You guys all said you may have been to a race. I had never been to a race until I started working on the contract. I run the partnership, and every time I go to one, I'm going, oh my God, wow. That's how I feel. In Daytona, it's a cult. It's amazing. So
Daytona for sure is on my list. I can't wait to get there. So Angela, Patagonia has long used sport and adventure to promote environmental activism and community as well. How have recent campaigns like the Art of Activism and your continued support for trail runners and climbers redefined what it means to be a values-driven brand as it relates to sports marketing?
Yeah, so Patagonia, if you don't know, we're a mission-based apparel brand, and our mission statement is to save the home planet. And a lot of ways that we do that is really established by the founder, Ivan, and so he really understood early on that the storytelling of people getting out in nature would hopefully inspire them to protect the spaces that they play in. And so all the sports we're involved in are human-powered sports where you're outside in nature. And so we've partnered with people like there's a company called Run Up for Air, and for every mile you elevate in runs, they take that money and to help for fighting for cleaner air around the globe. So those types of partnerships for us are really empowering because it really aligns with our mission. We spent almost $400 million since the beginning of our efforts to fight climate change over the years. And so it's just another element of that. And so the ultimate goal, especially in digital, with like bringing people into the brand and the experience, is to take every customer and have them convert or be part of our activist movement in some way, shape, or form, and whatever matter that is. So supporting those artists, those athletes in those spaces just kind of gets that message out there, gives us the opportunity to tell that story and hopefully inspire people to not only get out and enjoy the sport, but then also protect the trails, the oceans, and all the areas that they do those sports.
How do you, just building on that for a second, how do you decide who to partner with? I would imagine there's probably a lot of people that want to work with Patagonia, and then you maybe have a list of people that you're looking to work with athlete-wise.
Yeah.
Are you able to share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, well, from an athlete perspective, it's extremely limited. We have some ambassadors, and they're really long-term relationships. A lot of our ambassadors have been with us 5, 7, 10, 15 years. And their real purpose is to really wear the gear as their partnerships with the design product team, and they wear test that product for us. They help us innovate that product so that it's perfect for the use that we design it for, because every product we design is intended to solve a purpose.
Yeah.
So that relationship's really about that. And then from a marketing perspective, I like to take that media and then showcase that so that you understand why our jacket might look like something from another brand for a third of the price, like what you're really getting for that value, right? And so that's really critical for us. And then, so I think that's really important.
Great. All right, Milo. Lenovo's done a really amazing job fostering community connections with sports partnerships and the AI innovation that you've been doing, from everything from smarter stadiums to real-time data on global scale. Can you talk a little bit more about your FIFA partnership? And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of people are excited about the World Cup coming here this year.
Yeah, we have tickets, by the way, if anybody's interested.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. Understood.
See some hands raises.
So, we're definitely all in on sports marketing. So this is it's a cornerstone of how we go to market, of a lot of our awareness marketing. So what it means is we have to be very, very, and I'll get to FIFA, I swear, and I'll do this quick, but we have to be very strict around our choosing of a partner. And so we have a 3-prong approach where we look at selfishly, what can we do for that partner? Can we, is there a solution like the Propane track dryer. We look specifically for something we can do to help enhance the partnership that we're about to enter, and be an actual part of it. We want to be a part of it. We also look at the marketing, the KPIs, typical marketing KPIs. The last panel hates ROAS. I love ROAS. I don't know. I love all the weird acronyms of marketing. I'm a big data guy, but
Someone said it was a dirty word yesterday. Someone was like,
yeah,
I don't want to say ROAS.
I don't know. Yeah, we track it. So, that the amount of pipeline we could generate, lead generation, awareness, the media value, all the stuff, all the things. We look at that, and then we also look at the mission of the partnership. It's very, very important, and it was a very critical aspect of FIFA. When we talked to FIFA, we had these ideation sessions, and it's a massive. We're the official technology partner of FIFA for the next 4 years, and it doesn't come at a cheap cost with an organization that big.
Yeah.
So in the deep dives that we had in the year running up to signing the partnership, we really dug into what is your mission? What's FIFA's mission? And FIFA's mission is really to democratize the sport. It's to enable the smallest countries in the world to compete at the largest stage. And one that we're going to focus on this year is Curacao, smallest country ever to make the World Cup.
Yeah.
But we looked at that and we said, okay, all right, that's amazing. We want that too. We want to democratize data. We want to democratize for small and medium business, where new businesses aren't immediately stiff-armed from competing against. We want people to punch above their weight. It's a great story. It's also a mission of ours. So when we heard that was there were a lot of other things that they're focused on, but when we were all in a room and we kind of mind melded that one together, it was like, all right, let's do this. So that's how we got to FIFA. The sponsorship has really evolved beyond our imagination. I think we have 3 solutions right now that we're putting in place for the World Cup, AI driven. It's going to be impressive to see. So very, very excited.
Are you able to share? I'm just curious as a fan, because I live in New Jersey. I'll be going to MetLife for one of the matches at some point. What should fans expect, if you're able to share a little bit about experience-wise?
I can. I don't know what was released and what wasn't. David, you just stand up and yell over my voice.
I don't want to get you in trouble. That's not my.
No, that won't be the first time this week. Don't worry. Yeah. So we have. I don't know if you remember the old USFL or Arena League football.
Yeah.
They tried to put cameras in helmets, and it was cameras on the ref, and it was always a unstabilized kind of disaster, hats flying, camera feeds, kind of a mess. We developed an AI solution to actually deliver that this year. So we tested it out at Club. You're going to see, if you have a Motorola device or a Lenovo, ThinkPad or Yoga laptop, you'll be able to see essentially the field broadcast from the eyes of the referee. So we've tested it. It is it's like you're there. It's not like that arena football thing where it's kind of oh God, everything's a halo. It's a fisheye lens. It's AI enabled. It stabilizes itself. It looks unbelievable. We also have Pro Football GBT, which is the democratization of data, where we've taken via AI all of the data around, what does Messi do when he comes in from the right wing, and is he going to pass? Is he going to shoot when he looks down, when he looks up, when he looks to the right? And the big countries have access to that data, and it's expensive. So, the UK, for instance, they spend millions of dollars a year on player performance. Man, a Curacao or a smaller country doesn't have that type of, we've made it accessible to all the countries. So that Pro Football GBT is something we'll release as well. And we have 2 more, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about them yet, but they'll be amazing too. Promise.
Awesome. Yeah, that's thanks for giving us a sneak peek in that. Okay, so just changing gears a little bit to partnerships. Let's discuss how you're developing and executing successful partnerships, as well as on-site activations to connect with consumers. So maybe we can start with Bridget. And I should mention, we had a couple videos and a slide. We're obviously not able to share those, so just bear with us. Speaking of content, Bridget, I think you were going to speak a little bit around what Ally is doing to increase engagement and loyalty amongst consumers, fans, and the public. So we don't have the slide, but maybe you can just share a little bit about how you're increasing engagement?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, what we have to think about is the magic is in the connection with the community and your brand. And when we actually went out to do our social media launch around our WNBA partnership as a change maker, we really tapped into that idea of community. So we leveraged Paige Beckers, Brianna Stewart, Sid Colson, and we understood how they talked to their fans, how they connected with their fans. And so we used that as a barometer for how we should actually launch this brand new sponsorship. And what we saw was incredible results and incredible engagement. In fact, 10% of the 65,000 people who engaged with us organically their comments were centered around the fact that they wanted to become a customer of Ally if they weren't already, or that they were a customer of Ally because of how authentic we've been in the women's sports space and how we've put our money where our mouth is in the women's sports space. So tapping into those nuances in that community is super important. I think the other big thing is, this is something I'm trying to figure out how we do. How do we become the brand that makes financial services an endemic brand in women's sports and in sports in general? It's tricky because when you're not an endemic brand, it's hard to figure out how you make that connection of not only who you are, but what you do. And so what we've also kind of figured out is we've got to figure out how we start to drive a little bit of FOMO for the brand from consumers and to feel what it feels like to be an Ally customer. And as a digital bank that has no branches, using sports moments and creating programming around these championship weekends or all-star weekends is really, really a great opportunity for us to be able to showcase and for people to be able to feel and touch and understand what it feels like to be an Ally customer. And I have some colleagues here with me today that really, their teams help us build this out. How are we making sure that we're getting the idea of what we're building activation-wise on site out to prospects, out to customers, and what are they going to get for it? So during NWSL weekend, this is a good example. We actually launched what we called our Ally House. So we took over a huge event space downtown San Jose. We created fan-centric programming, and that's another big core differentiator for us is we're a very consumer, customer, fan-centric company. Everything we do is at the heart of the fan. We brought podcasts in, live podcasting, live programming, live meet and greets with athletes around, like retired athletes, current athletes, whether it's NWSL, WNBA, it didn't matter. That's what the fans wanted to see. And then we were able to create some upgrades, perks, things like that for our customers. So we're really looking at like, how do we extend that across our entire portfolio of sponsorships? How do we use those assets to generate more loyalty for our brand? And it's starting to work. We're seeing some pretty impactful results.
I'm just curious too. So you guys were very early into women's sports. Are you finding that it's just becoming that much more competitive as other brands are looking to get into that sphere as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The space is getting really crowded, and we're also seeing a lot of financial services companies creeping into the space, it's a good thing, right? It's a good problem to have. It's what we wanted to do. It's the exact movement that we wanted to lead. But we've seen even just media coverage, which was sort of our whole reason for being, go from 4% to over 20%. Just in the last 4 years because of that 50-50 commitment that we made. So what we're doing is working. Other brands are joining in. Media companies are joining in, and the space is growing.
Yeah, thanks for expanding on that. Okay, I don't think we got your water, but yeah, okay, good. You spent some time talking about the NASCAR relationship. Can you talk about how you measure the community or industry impact of what Suburban Propane is doing around your initiatives?
Absolutely. So, and I sound a little better, so the water helped. I think, what everybody's saying here, there's just so much in there. I'm very familiar. I follow what Patagonia does. I mean, there's so much for the communities, for the oceans and giving back, and it's a really big name. So, just a little bit, kind of rewinding a little, my product explodes. It is what it is. It is a fossil fuel-driven product that explodes, and it's essential. And we're almost 100 years old, and we spoke about AI, we spoke about customers. Forget AI. Email's not even a thing in my industry. It's oil and gas. We've been around since the Stone Ages. We'll probably be around for whenever. But we are who we are. I'm very proud of it, right? Our customers drive 150 miles to pay their bills via check. It's reality. I mean, it's ethnography. It's middle America. We have 800 locations around the country. So to come back to your question, Drew, the reason I'm painting this picture, we needed something that brings us all together. What brings everything together? Community. You know, you might be the largest company out there. We've got some phenomenal global brands here. You could be what I am, you know, an old legacy all-American brand, born and bred in the United States, been around for 100 years, probably will be around for another 100 years, let's hope. Community. So we have a platform called Suburban Cares. We have a long-standing partnership with the American Red Cross. We work with NASCAR and Speedway Motors. We work with, and if anybody here is interested in partnering with us, we work with the smallest organizations. During COVID, we had 3,300 employees, 3,000 of them are in the field delivering propane. Heck, that was a cold March and April. For those of you on the East Coast, 2020 was rough in so many which ways, but it was very cold as well, if you remember that. Our drivers and technicians were out there working. We were supporting first responders. We do everything from, you know, homeless shelters, shoes for the shoeless. Community has become such an integral part of what we do. Be it a NASCAR activation, any show that we go to, we try to integrate it with something for the community. You know, fire safety. We're all about safety. Look, our product explodes. Our trucks roll over. What happens? Product gets released into the atmosphere, right? Things that we read about in the news, you hear about an explosion. I also run PR and crisis management. I hear explosion. I'm like, oh my, please tell me it's not one of ours. That's what I think. 8 years ago, that was not a part of my vocabulary, right? But that being said, what can we do? We do community. Now, I'm very, very proud to say this for an industry that is not that well known out there. We've been very lucky to be competing at the highest level for community awards. It's beyond that. The whole purpose is we have 800 locations, 42 states. We have 2 locations in this tiny part of Montana and Helena. Because most of Montana, there's really nothing there. You do need propane. It's gorgeous. But you know what? We're giving back. We're promoting fire safety. This sounds horrible. What happened in the Carolinas, a year and a half ago? There's a natural disaster. Heck, it's great for business. It's terrible to say this. Again, we want to give back to the community. So that kind of becomes the premise of everything that we do. It's driven into our DNA.
Fire safety, very, very important. All right, Angela, you spoke a little bit earlier just about some of the athletic partnerships that you're forming. Can you share a little bit about how you approach authenticity when you're actually creating the digital content that you're putting out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my role, I actually have the gift of that. It's inherently very authentic because going back to sort of like who we're validating with, who we're working with, even when I didn't really talk too much about like other partnerships that we do, but we really make sure that the people that we're standing shoulder to shoulder with are doing the work that we're doing, that it's not greenwashing, that they're not suddenly all of a sudden found sustainability to be a thing for them. Like, are they doing the work and do they have the receipts per se? And so I feel like I'm going off your question. What was your question again?
No, just around the digital content that you're putting out there and like keeping it authentic to your brand.
So a lot of times, we have an incredible creative team. And like I said, a lot of our stories come from a lot of times within our own culture and our own community. We tell stories from around the globe. We're a global brand. We had an amazing film about deep sea divers in Korea, a very old tradition. And that story came from the Korean team. So those stories become authentic just by nature because they're coming from real people and have a real passion. And if there isn't, a story that's well told and one that inspires, really is rooted in something that you're like, wow, I didn't know about that. Or there's this thing I've been to that place 1,000 times. I had no idea this was happening, or a call to action. And I think that's where Patagonia gets really revered for the work that we do, because a lot of times there's so many things we could talk about. And so our biggest fans sometimes challenge us. I'm like, well, this thing happened in DC. How come Patagonia's not talking about it? This thing happened? And we know that like we talk about the things that we actually take action in, and there's other things that we're absolutely passionate about. And for me, there's things that I personally am passionate about that Patagonia will never speak about because they haven't been in that space. And so when you start to come out of your lane a little bit, then that's where things kind of go sideways, right? You can suddenly be called to task. I'm like, well, all of a sudden you're talking about, I can't make something up. It's been a long week, but you come up with something and you're just like, why is Patagonia talking about that? And you can't stand behind it. Yeah. But if anyone were to challenge us on our point of views about oceans and things of that nature, we've got 40 years of history behind that. We've got 25 years of history in supporting small grassroots activist campaigns. And so that inherently makes it authentic because we know that we can stand by it, and we might ruffle some feathers in how we say it because a lot of times we say things pretty boldly, but we're okay about that, right? And a lot of times that community we talked about will support us even more if people kind of come for our throats. They kind of back us up a lot. So that's actually fun to watch as a marketer on social channels. Yeah.
So you're staying true to your roots, and you have all the history to back up what the brand beliefs are.
Absolutely. Our holiday campaign, if anyone saw it, was called Propaganda. And so it was a very sarcastic campaign, and it was really around, like, if we have to tell stories, and propaganda is being used in politics right now pretty aggressively, no matter what side you're on. That's a fact. And so how could we use propaganda for good in fighting and just raising awareness about climate change? So, we had a huge headline that said, climate change is over, like this sort of ironic thing. And the people that understood the brand really got it, and there's some people that didn't get it. And then, like I said, that community really stood by us and sort of helped educate other people on why we were doing that campaign.
I think we just have a minute or two left, but maybe we can just quickly, and we can start with you, Milo, and we'll just come down. There's marketers in the room. Can you share, what advice do you have for brands who want to authentically leverage sports for meaningful marketing and social impact?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot during the panel. I mean, I think staying in your lane is a great bit of advice. We attempt to do that as well. It's certainly something we look at, but probably the joining of causes is important. So as you look at a potential sponsorship, really getting to know them. You sponsor one sporting anything. We have every team, a Seattle Sounders call, every sports team that's ever existed, and some that are being built are reaching out for sponsorships. So really focusing on either the team, the player, the organization that aligns with your company's values, the message you want to deliver, really going 2 inches deep into not just the stats around, the media value of 30 seconds, on the pitch during this match is going to equate to $5 million. Like, oh my God, let's do it. It's really go deeper than that and evaluate at a level of the cause almost. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So lining up with the beliefs that you have as a brand, and then being able to go deep on that with
absolutely.
the partners that you're bringing on or who you're partnering with. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Bridget, we'll go with you, and then.
Yeah, I would say it's got to be out of purpose. So our whole entire foray into women's sports was out of purpose. And so when we look at the impact of the work that we've done in women's sports, it's not just about the impact that we've had on our brand and our business, but it's the impact that it's having on the women's sports industry. That's so important. And it's why we had to do the work in the first place with the women's sports business, so that we could earn that trust of the fans. That's how we earned that trust from the fans. And you got to put your money where your mouth is. You have to do the work, and you have to make them trust you. And what we've seen because of that is, women's sports fans are 2 times more favorable to Ally than the general population, which is pretty cool to see those brand health metrics skyrocket like that over the last 4 years, just amongst women's sports fans. But it tells us that we're doing our job. They're more loyal. They're more likely to consider us. And, I think you've got to make sure that you're looking at the impact of both of those things, because without purpose, why do it?
Yeah. Any last advice, Angela?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has been really enjoyable for me in my experience at Patagonia is because when you have those purpose metrics and those long play games of trying to build community and relationships with your cultural community, is that as much as I love data, I have the ability to like create new metrics or define the metrics slightly differently, right? So ROI, ROAS is, I live by that. I'm a numbers person. I have a finance degree, so I love data. But at the same time, I know sometimes some of our goals and objectives are just engagement and just exposure. And so I like to be able to play the balance between those different metrics and the different needs. And like sometimes like, well, this might be the industry standard, and my industry standard is going to be a little bit lower because I'm giving space for the storytelling. I'm giving space for the outreach part of it or the engagement piece, especially from a data, because I could be lower funnel all day, every day if I wanted to, but that's not how Patagonia operates. And it's one of the reasons I came to that brand, because I got that freedom to be able to play in the space of like, not everything's going to be measured at the same way. In fact, we're building our own metrics around what lifetime value is that includes activism and just engagement and storytelling on top of transactional. And so I have a team, my Linux team has been building this out for 2 years and is launching this year, which I'm very excited about. So that stuff is really fun for me to kind of like, I think that's sort of the future. Like every brand is starting to become, it needs to be part of your lifestyle in a way to really have relevance and longevity. So I think that's going to require different approaches and analytics and analysis in the future.
All right, we just got the 1 minute flash. So Nandini,
All right,
if you want to share any final advice, we'll wrap
Wow,
up.
I mean, it's going last actually helped since I'm losing my voice here because this is all fantastic. I'll sum it up literally in one word: reimagining. What I mean by that, we've had to reimagine ourselves. Century old. I don't want to be the marketer that's ruined a century old brand for whoever's taken over for me a century from now. They'll hate me for that. So, honestly, reimagining who we are, but not losing sight of the purpose, not losing sight of staying in whatever lane we are, adapting technology, however that comes. But let's reimagine ourselves with NASCAR, with partnerships, with sponsorships, whatever that journey might look like. How do we continue reimagining that as we're, going into, the next generation? We didn't spend too much time on this panel, talking about the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas who'll be welcoming in very soon, or already are, right? That's kind of the mantra we're employing. Again, we're so behind the 8 ball in so many brands here. But we've been around for 100 years, and this industry is going to be around for thousands of years. And I'm going to keep all of this out of that. But listen, climate change is probably, I did see the campaign. And how do we we're also one of the most regulated industry. So when you're reimagining yourself in a regulated industry, it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because you get to carve your own path that's never been done before. And your competitors actually want to see what you're doing because we're all in this ride together.
We didn't even talk about AI really too, so that was good. So reimagining is a good place to end this on. Thank each of you for your time and doing this, and thanks the audience for sticking around.